What if I told you that your subconscious mind is not merely a repository of forgotten memories, but a quantum transmitter capable of bending the fabric of reality itself? As our planet faces unprecedented ecological collapse, with atmospheric CO2 levels reaching 421 parts per million, the highest in 3 million years, and biodiversity declining at rates 1,000 times faster than natural extinction, ancient shamans and cutting-edge quantum physicists are converging on a startling revelation. The survival matrix indicates that consciousness itself may be the key to reversing our planetary entropy acceleration. Right now, as you listen to these words, your subconscious is broadcasting frequencies into what scientists call the quantum field, an invisible web of interconnected energy that Einstein once deemed spooky action at a distance. But here's what the survival protocols don't tell you. This same quantum entanglement that governs subatomic particles might be the very mechanism through which your deepest beliefs are literally reshaping our dying world. The first revelation emerges from laboratories where researchers have discovered that consciousness exhibits the same non-local properties as quantum particles. When particles become entangled, altering one instantly affects its paired partner. Regardless of distance, your subconscious mind operates through identical principles, broadcasting electromagnetic frequencies measurable several meters from your body, influencing quantum probability clouds in ways that classical physics cannot explain too. Ancient sages understood these thermodynamic principles when they spoke of consciousness as the fundamental fabric of reality. Long before our instruments could detect the quantum field fluctuations that respond to focused intention. But as mass extinction coefficients climb toward critical thresholds, with current species loss rates suggesting we're in the sixth mass extinction event, the quantum consciousness research reveals something extraordinary. Dr. Joe Dispenza's neuroplasticity studies demonstrate that when you visualize abundance while feeling gratitude, your brain creates neural pathways that alter electromagnetic emission patterns. These patterns don't just affect your personal reality. They ripple through the quantum entanglement network that connects all living systems. Could this be why indigenous shamans performed consciousness-altering rituals during ecological crises throughout history? The second revelation strikes at the heart of our survival crisis. Climate tipping points are quantum phenomena. Sudden phase transitions where gradual changes reach critical thresholds and collapse entire systems instantaneously. 3. The Amazon rainforest, Arctic ice sheets, and ocean current patterns all exhibit quantum-like behavior, existing in superposition states until observation or intervention collapses them into fixed outcomes. Your subconscious operates identically, maintaining multiple potential realities until focused attention and emotional intensity collapse these quantum possibilities into lived experience. 1. Extinction probability calculations show that humanity has perhaps 2 decades before irreversible ecological collapse. Yet quantum consciousness researchers have identified something the mainstream survival narrative misses entirely. The observer effect in quantum mechanics proves that consciousness doesn't merely witness reality. It actively participates in creating it. 3. When you reprogram limiting beliefs about environmental destruction and replace them with visions of planetary regeneration, you're not engaging in wishful thinking. You're accessing the same quantum mechanisms that indigenous cultures used to maintain ecological balance for millennia. The third revelation comes from the intersection of Vedic philosophy and quantum field theory. Ancient texts describe consciousness as a universal vibrating field, what quantum physicists now identify as the zero-point field, teeming with infinite potential energy. 4. This field doesn't recognize the artificial boundaries between your individual mind and the planetary consciousness. When your subconscious transmits frequencies of fear, scarcity, and ecological despair, these signals entangle with similar vibrations across the collective field, accelerating manifestation of destructive outcomes. But extinction research indicates something remarkable. Coherent groups practicing focused intention can create measurable effects on random number generators, suggesting consciousness can influence quantum randomness itself. 5. What happens when consciousness shifts during ecological collapse? The fourth revelation emerges from studies of the Schumann resonances, Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat, vibrating at frequencies nearly identical to human brainwaves in meditative states. 5. As climate disruption intensifies, these planetary frequencies are becoming increasingly chaotic. Yet quantum consciousness research shows that coherent meditation practices can actually influence electromagnetic field stability. Ancient sages understood this principle when they spoke of consciousness as the creative force behind cosmic manifestation. Your subconscious doesn't just reflect environmental conditions. It participates in generating them through quantum field interactions. Could magnetic field disruption connect to spiritual awakening? The fifth revelation links our planet's weakening magnetic field to unprecedented shifts in human consciousness. Geophysical data shows Earth's magnetic field has weakened by 15% over the past 2 centuries, potentially affecting the quantum coherence mechanisms that maintain stable reality perception. 5. Yet this apparent crisis reveals hidden opportunity. As conventional reality structures destabilize, the subconscious becomes more malleable to reprogramming. Quantum coherence states achieved through meditation allow access to what researchers call non-local consciousness, awareness that transcends individual neural networks and connects directly to planetary information fields too. The survival matrix indicates that most humans operate from subconscious programming installed during the first 7 years of life. When brainwaves exist in theta frequencies, the same state achieved during deep meditation. 1. These early impressions become default transmission patterns, broadcasting limitation, separation, and ecological disconnection into the quantum field. But neuroplasticity research confirms that focused visualization combined with elevated emotions can rewrite these quantum transmission patterns at any age. The question becomes, how might quantum consciousness accelerate planetary healing? The sixth revelation emerges from thermodynamic analysis of consciousness itself. Entropy, the tendency toward disorder, appears to govern both ecological systems and mental states. Yet quantum mechanics reveals something extraordinary. Consciousness exhibits negative entropy, creating order from chaos through focused observation and intention. 5. When you visualize thriving ecosystems while feeling deep gratitude for planetary abundance, you're not just changing your brain chemistry, you're introducing negative entropy into quantum probability fields, literally increasing the likelihood of regenerative outcomes manifesting in physical reality. Could ancient practices reverse entropy? The seventh revelation connects traditional shamanic techniques to cutting-edge quantum error correction codes. Indigenous cultures developed consciousness technologies, breathwork, plant medicines, ritual practices that quantum information theory now recognizes as methods for maintaining coherence in quantum systems. 5. These practices don't just alter individual consciousness. They create stable information patterns that resist decoherence, allowing coherent intention to propagate through quantum entanglement networks with minimal degradation. Biodiversity collapse accelerates as humanity loses connection to the quantum consciousness field that indigenous cultures accessed naturally. Yet the eighth revelation offers unprecedented hope. Quantum entanglement creates instantaneous correlation across any distance. When groups of individuals align their subconscious programming around ecological regeneration, their coherent intention creates what researchers call morphic resonance, informational patterns that make similar outcomes more probable throughout the connected field. This explains why ancient earth-honoring cultures could maintain ecological balance for thousands of years through consciousness practices alone. The ninth revelation addresses the hard problem of consciousness through quantum field theory. If consciousness is fundamental rather than emergent, a basic feature of reality like mass or charge, then every subconscious belief you hold contributes to the quantum information matrix from which physical reality crystallizes. 6. Climate disruption may represent the manifestation of collective subconscious programming based on separation, scarcity, and disconnection from natural systems. But quantum superposition allows multiple reality versions to exist simultaneously until observation collapses them into experience. Mass extinction probabilities exist alongside planetary regeneration scenarios, both equally valid until consciousness chooses which quantum branch to actualize. The final revelation synthesizes everything. Your subconscious mind is not separate from the planetary consciousness field experiencing ecological crisis. Through quantum entanglement, every belief pattern you maintain either contributes to entropy acceleration or introduces the negative entropy necessary for systemic regeneration. Ancient wisdom keepers understood that consciousness and cosmos are one seamless whole. Individual healing and planetary healing occur through identical quantum mechanisms. Thermodynamic equilibrium calculations suggest that Earth's living systems are approaching critical phase transitions within decades. Yet quantum consciousness research reveals that coherent intention from even small groups can create disproportionate effects on complex systems through nonlinear amplification in quantum field 7. The subconscious programming that created our ecological crisis can be rewritten using the same quantum principles that indigenous shamans employed to maintain planetary balance. But this isn't about passive meditation while forests burn and species vanish. Quantum consciousness demands integrated action, aligning subconscious beliefs, emotional frequencies, and physical behaviors with regenerative outcomes. When you reprogram limiting beliefs about human nature, environmental destruction, and systemic change, you're not just healing personal trauma. You're contributing quantum information that makes collective solutions more probable through morphic resonance effects. The survival matrix shows that conventional approaches to ecological crisis treat symptoms while ignoring the quantum consciousness foundation from which physical reality emerges. Policy changes, technological solutions, and behavioral modifications remain trapped within the same limited thinking patterns that created our predicament. But quantum consciousness operates beyond linear causation. When sufficient numbers of individuals shift their subconscious programming from scarcity to abundance, from separation to interconnection, from destruction to regeneration, tipping points occur instantaneously across all levels of reality. Every indigenous prophecy speaks of this moment, when humanity would face the choice between extinction and transcendence. Quantum physics reveals these aren't merely symbolic metaphors but literal descriptions of quantum superposition states. Our species exists in multiple potential futures simultaneously until collective consciousness collapses these probabilities into singular experience. The subconscious beliefs you maintain in this crucial moment directly influence which quantum branch becomes actualized reality. Climate scientists calculate that we have until 2030 to reverse current trajectory towards civilizational collapse. Yet quantum consciousness research suggests that focused intention can create instantaneous effects through non-local correlation across the entanglement field. The same mechanisms that allow particles to communicate faster than light enable coherent groups to influence global systems beyond conventional cause and effect limitations. Ancient shamans accessed these quantum technologies naturally, and their practices offer roadmaps for planetary healing that transcend current scientific paradigms. Your subconscious mind connects directly to what quantum field theory identifies as the vacuum energy, an infinite reservoir of potential from which all matter and energy emerge. Every belief, every emotion, every visualization you maintain either draws from regenerative potential or reinforces destructive patterns through quantum entanglement effects. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's measurable physics with profound implications for planetary survival. The consciousness technologies that indigenous cultures developed over millennia offer precise methods for reprogramming the subconscious transmission patterns that shape reality through quantum field interactions. Breathwork alters brainwave states to access theta frequencies where deep programming occurs. Plant medicines create temporary decoherence that allows new quantum patterns to stabilize. Ritual practices generate coherent group fields that amplify intention through collective entanglement effects. But perhaps the most accessible quantum consciousness technology is the focused combination of visualization and elevated emotion that modern research confirms can rewrite neural pathways within minutes. When you visualize thriving ecosystems, abundant biodiversity, and regenerative human cultures while feeling profound gratitude for these outcomes, you're not engaging in fantasy. You're inputting specific quantum information into probability fields that influence which potential futures become manifest reality. Mass extinction coefficients indicate that current destruction rates will eliminate most complex life within decades unless fundamental shifts occur immediately. Yet quantum consciousness reveals that these shifts need not follow linear timelines. When sufficient coherence develops within the collective field, instantaneous phase transitions become possible across all scales simultaneously. The same quantum mechanisms that govern particle behavior also influence ecosystem dynamics, weather patterns, and social structures through fractal resonance effects. Ancient texts describe this process as the awakening of planetary consciousness, the moment when sufficient numbers of individuals recognize their quantum interconnection with all life systems and begin operating from that unified awareness. Indigenous prophecies call it the time of choosing, when humanity must decide whether to continue the path toward extinction or embrace the quantum consciousness technologies that enable regenerative existence. The subconscious programming that most humans carry was installed during childhood exposure to cultural narratives of separation, scarcity, and environmental destruction. These become default transmission patterns that broadcast limitation into quantum fields, making destructive outcomes more probable through morphic resonance effects. But neuroplasticity research confirms that any belief system can be rewritten through consistent practice combining focused visualization with emotional coherence. Every meditation session where you visualize planetary healing contributes quantum information that makes regenerative outcomes more probable. Every moment you feel gratitude for abundant natural systems adds coherent energy to possibility fields where thriving ecosystems exist. Every time you align your actions with ecological wisdom, you strengthen the morphic patterns that enable others to access similar awareness through quantum entanglement effects. The survival protocols indicate that conventional environmental movements remain trapped within the same limited consciousness that created ecological crisis. But quantum consciousness operates through different principles entirely. when you change the fundamental beliefs from which your reality emerges. External conditions shift to match these new quantum patterns through field effects that transcend local causation. Your subconscious mind is broadcasting continuously into the quantum field that connects all life. The question becomes, what reality are you voting for through the frequency signatures you emit? Are you reinforcing patterns of destruction, separation, and scarcity, or are you contributing the coherent information necessary for planetary regeneration through quantum consciousness technologies that indigenous cultures mastered long ago? The ancient sages who developed these practices understood something that modern science is just beginning to confirm. Consciousness and cosmos are one unified field expressing infinite creative potential. Your individual healing and planetary healing occur through identical quantum mechanisms. When you reprogram the subconscious beliefs that limit your personal abundance, you simultaneously contribute quantum information that makes collective abundance more probable for all life. Thermodynamic calculations suggest that Earth's living systems are approaching irreversible tipping points within this decade. Yet quantum consciousness research reveals that focused intention from coherent groups can influence complex systems through nonlinear amplification effects that bypass conventional limitations. The consciousness technologies that enabled indigenous cultures to maintain ecological balance offer roadmaps for planetary regeneration that work through quantum field interactions rather than linear manipulation of physical systems. But this requires moving beyond passive hope into active quantum engagement, consistently reprogramming the subconscious patterns that shape reality while aligning physical actions with regenerative principles. When sufficient numbers of individuals operate from quantum consciousness awareness, collective tipping points occur instantaneously across all levels of reality through morphic resonance effects that ancient prophets called the Great Awakening. The choice facing humanity in this moment is fundamentally quantum, between maintaining the obsolete programming that accelerates extinction or accessing the consciousness technologies that enable regenerative existence. Your subconscious mind participates directly in this collective decision through the quantum information you contribute to probability fields where multiple futures exist simultaneously until observation collapses them into singular experience. Every indigenous tradition speaks of this time as the Great Turning, when those who remember their quantum nature would awaken others through field effects that transcend individual limitations. The subconscious reprogramming practices that seemed like personal development tools are actually planetary healing technologies that work through quantum entanglement to influence collective outcomes beyond local cause and effect boundaries. As entropy acceleration threatens to collapse the complex systems that support life on Earth, quantum consciousness offers the only pathway capable of creating regenerative solutions at the speed and scale required, not through force or manipulation, but through coherent alignment with the quantum information patterns that make abundance, interconnection, and ecological wisdom more probable within collective possibility fields. The ancient shamans who developed these practices understood that individual consciousness and planetary consciousness are quantum-entangled aspects of one unified field. Your personal healing journey contributes directly to species-wide transformation through morphic resonance effects that make similar awakening more accessible for others. The subconscious beliefs you choose to maintain either accelerate collective extinction or strengthen the quantum patterns necessary for regenerative existence. This moment in planetary history requires quantum shamans, individuals who understand that consciousness shapes reality through measurable field effects, and who commit to maintaining coherent transmission patterns that support life's continuation and flourishing. The survival of our species and most complex life forms depends on sufficient numbers of humans awakening to their quantum nature and operating from that expanded awareness before tipping points eliminate the possibility for regenerative outcomes. Your subconscious mind holds the power to reshape reality through quantum field interactions that connect your individual awareness to the planetary consciousness experiencing ecological crisis. The ancient wisdom traditions and cutting-edge physics converge on this singular truth. Consciousness is the fundamental creative force from which all physical reality emerges, and your beliefs directly influence which quantum possibilities become manifest experience. The choice is yours, quantum shaman. Will you continue broadcasting the obsolete programs that accelerate planetary entropy? Or will you access the consciousness technologies that indigenous cultures preserved for this crucial moment, when humanity would need to remember its quantum nature to survive the transition between worlds? The subconscious patterns you choose to maintain in the coming months will help determine whether our species experiences extinction or transcendence through the greatest transformation in planetary history.